Rachel. Here we are for your video pleasure. I don't know what I'm
I
saying.
was like, I can see you now.
I
But
know. We can feel, we can taste, we can touch, we can see, we can hear.
what?
Just, I'm just naming all the senses.
I was like, oh, is this what's the version of senses? Like there is that movie Inside Out. There needs to be one for senses, not just feelings.
Oh,
That
yeah.
could be a musical.
Yeah.
There you go. You
Riley
figured
finds
it
her
out.
senses. Inside Out 3. We got it for
And
them.
yeah,
Yeah. Hi-Res
upside down,
Pixar.
inside out.
Upside down. Um, if you guys don't know already, we did release stuff on social, but we do have a YouTube channel now. We are, of course, well, really, we should start out. Happy 100 episodes. Here we
Happy
are.
100. Where is
We're,
our cake or our
yeah.
little
Mhm.
schmackeries cookies? That's what I want to know.
Schmackers. Yeah, not a
Why did no one
sponsor.
throw us a 100 party?
Right. Not a
Rude.
sponsor, but where is our show cake, our 100 show cake? Yeah. With our little
Why?
faces on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then balloons, obviously.
Um, PO box whatever if you want to send that to us. No, I'm just kidding. Um, this is yeah.
DM me directly.
Of course, if you're listening to this on audio, we are releasing
Nothing's
our
changed.
video episodes on Wednesday. So, um, if you want to, listen to this and then go back and watch us on video, I do that all the time with podcasts. Sometimes I'll listen to it, then I'll watch it again. It's so much fun. So, if you have a million hours on your
Target
hands,
audience is Taylor.
yeah, is me, is me.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, we're very excited. This episode has been a long time coming for me.
For Taylor specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute, but of
Ah,
course we need to start with our appetizer, our amuse. I guess not amuse bouche. That's after, isn't it?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know the definition.
Our
I
bon
don't know how to spell it.
appetit. Yeah, 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 yeah. DM us if you know how to spell amuse bouche. Our current theater Broadway news segment. What's the buzz? Honestly, I was writing out the buzz this week, Rachel, and there really isn't that much.
So
Like,
sad.
I
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
There isn't too much.
yeah. And we recorded
But I will tell
recently.
you, two of
Yeah,
these were big, big news, in my
big
opinion. Two
news.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we recorded an episode that will come out later in the year. And we talked a lot about this. I mean, kind of this first one a little bit. Not
Hmm.
about this
Yeah.
specifically, but just kind of the subject around this.
Yeah.
Um, a little sad news, Rachel. What's our first one that we got?
So our sad news is a closing, and that's Kimberly Akimbo closing on April 28th. I mean, they gave us a plenty of time, and it will have obviously
Mm-hmm.
run over a year, right? Oh,
Right.
two.
Yeah,
How
it
long will it have
opened in
run?
November, I think.
16? Yeah. So, I mean, still a very good run. Obviously, this is coming off of Victoria Clark taking a step back and all of these things, but
Right.
yeah, sad to have the show officially. Yeah. So we'll see what go get it, go see it, get tickets between now and April. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great show. But I think seeing over the last few weeks their Broadway grosses,
Yeah.
it's not that unexpected, although it is super sad. So
Super sad.
yeah, super
Um,
sad.
I think in this post-pandemic era, we need to kind of expect a little bit more that shows close earlier than they deserve, which is sad. Because not everyone is a show that we'll be talking about today.
Well,
um,
and I also think, like Kimberly Kimbo is a sad show. I mean, it's not like all
mhm,
sad, but it's
right.
got some heavy things. And so, it doesn't attract there's another show we'll talk about in our buzz. It doesn't attract the kind of
Mhm,
audience that show might attract
mhm.
just because of the style of the content.
Yeah, but also Shuck 2 closing is so sad. So, yeah.
I know. No, of course
Yeah.
it's so sad. is that?
Yeah. April 28th, the day before my birthday. So,
So Taylor's gonna go see it.
exciting. Yeah. I turned 28 this year, so that's fun.
Wow, that's
I know.
exciting.
Here we go. Barbie,
We're old.
the $1 billion movie that came out in 2023. You heard of it?
What?
You
Who
heard
is
of
it?
it? Yeah. hmm Rachel hasn't seen it yet. No, I'm just kidding.
Joke.
Yeah, jokes. We got jokes for days. The Barbie the movie, it was teased that there might be a musical by Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie on the red carpet at, I believe, the Golden Globes is where this was teased. Or in some interview it was teased at least, but I don't know. It's exciting. I definitely could see it. I mean, it's very campy and it has like the style. I mean, every interview I've watched and listened to of Greta Gerwig, she talks about how the movie is like an homage to all those 50s and 60s musicals. So I totally get it, but I don't know. It would be interesting. What do you think?
I think it's perfect the way it is. Let's not touch it.
Amazing.
And might I add, why don't we put some of that money into other Broadway shows? Like Greta Gerwig
Mhm.
can help adapt another show to Broadway or
Mhm.
help
Mhm.
a show that's getting off the
Yeah.
ground.
Lady Bird the musical
I mean, you know,
with
I wouldn't
Timothy
hate
Chalamet.
it. With the love of my life, Timothy
Right.
Chalamet.
Right.
Yep. hmm
Yeah.
This next one was
Prince's
very interesting.
Yeah, this next one is very interesting. Prince's Purple Rain film and album will have a world premiere stage adaptation written by playwright Brandon Jacobs Jenkins, who has a play currently on Broadway, Appropriate. Is it appropriate
hmm
for Purple Rain to have a stage
Sarah
adaptation?
Paulson. I don't know. We'll find
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I
This
mean,
is, I don't know. Do we need this?
do we need it? I mean, I
No.
don't know. I just, what is it going to be like when it says premiere stage adaptation? What does that mean?
Yeah. Is it like an
That's some
experience? Like we all
questions.
have to
Yeah.
dress up like Prince and then
Or
go?
like is it immersive or is it a concert or like
Right.
what is the film?
I mean, I wonder if I guess it's going to be a musical because it's going to have the music in it. So,
I mean, that's what but it doesn't say that. So that's why it's weird.
yeah, I think it's meaning because in the Playbill article I read, it only mentions the playwright because I think they're using the album music. It's going to be a jukebox musical, but they don't say that. They really don't. So, yeah.
They don't say that though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
Weird.
time will tell. We'll see what happens,
We'll
I
see.
guess.
What do you think of these next
Speaking of
two
seeing,
casting? Yeah.
oh,
Casting.
speaking of seeing, Derek Klena, I see him again,
Seeing is
returning to
believing.
Moulin Rouge on
I see him
February
again.
6th.
Yeah.
He's, I mean, anyway, he's very beautiful.
You've actually seen him live. I have not.
I have seen him
I
in
don't think.
Anastasia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you saw him in Anastasia. Yeah.
I mean, bring people back. Bring heavy hitters back. I mean, this doesn't seem that strange to me. He's great.
No.
He clearly wants to do the work. And so
Mhm.
is it a little weird? Yes, but Moulin Rouge reminds me of Chicago in the sense of like we keep changing who's going to be in the, in it, which is actually what this next musical is following suit. If I were to think about that kind of thing, it's like Chicago, Moulin Rouge, and now it's been Hadestown.
Yeah, Hadestown is also one. Even just thinking about it, it is crazy that Hadestown has lasted since its opening because it's kind of a niche subject. I mean, it's Greek mythology, so I guess that's like everyone knows it.
But I feel like Greek mythology is super. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But
But
this week we found out. What did we find out, Tay? Tell the
we
people.
found that Lola Tung, the Summer I Turned Pretty star, which have you watched that show?
Have I watched that show? Am I eating that show up like it's the best pasta I've ever made in my life? Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Hmm.
I've
What
read
kind
the
of pasta would
books.
it be?
I watched the show. I don't know. But the best
Oh,
pasta. A ravioli,
okay.
probably, honestly.
Mm, love
Couldn't eat
that.
that much of it, but it would be so
All
good.
slimy and filled with
Slimy.
gooiness. Yeah. Um. Yeah.
Slimy.
Well, ravioli can be slimy. That's all I'm saying.
That doesn't
Um.
sound appealing.
I have not watched the show.
Okay.
Yeah. Or
Well,
read the books.
this is the second person who's being in a musical from this show now, because we have Connie
Hmm.
Baby. He's in
Hmm.
he's in Mean Girls, and then Lola will be in Hadestown. That's
Yeah.
very interesting to me. This is giving Disney Channel stars.
Yes. She will make her Broadway debut in Hadestown as Eurydice starting February 9th, which is very exciting. All these I mean
Also,
Derek Leonard's returning, so he already
that's a
knows
big
his
role.
lines.
That's a big
Yeah,
role.
yeah, it is a big role. He already knows his lines, so but they're only getting like what, 3 weeks of rehearsal before? That's kind of crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
This last one is
What's
exciting. I
even
think
more
it's
crazier is this
yeah.
next one.
Well, I'm excited for this because we talked about this recently with someone that's going to be on the show. And this show, the final Sondheim musical, Stephen Sondheim, Here We Are is going to be releasing a cast album in the spring of 2024. I couldn't find a date.
Sometime spring and
Yeah,
summer.
springtime for Sondheim. Springtime for
Yes.
Sondheim and Merrily.
There we go.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I'm excited to listen to it. I think,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. I mean, we heard recently that it may not be the right show for Broadway, so maybe it won't transfer. So
Maybe it won't. Yeah, I mean, to have a cast album before transferring to Broadway either means you're trying to transfer to Broadway or you won't.
Right.
Which are like two very different. But
I
we'll
mean,
see. I'm
I
intrigued. I mean, last I heard the second act didn't hold. So
right.
I'll be intrigued to see what the second act is like
I mean,
in the music.
unlike Purple Rain's website is Purple Rain Broadway, so they already know where they're going. It's just like the Secret Garden Broadway account. This is what I'm saying. Here We Are was not Here We Are Broadway. So
Yeah. So does that mean, Taylor, if we change ours to Theater Nerds Broadway, we already know where we're going?
I guess we're doing a show on Broadway, which we want the booth, please.
You literally said like a week and a half ago or whatever that we were gonna be at the Gershwin. I was like, the
Just for the
Gershwin.
Wicked.
I thought you meant the AMC theater.
Just for the Wicked Part 1 episode.
Oh yeah, just for that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And then we'll go on down to the Wiz and talk about the Wiz. The Wiz revival.
Ease on down. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep, that's our buzz this week, you guys. So short, not that much to talk about, but that really
so short, and yet we made it so long.
Yeah, we did. Always. Really, that leads us
so
into our main discussion today, which is
what are we talking about, Taylor?
It's good that we didn't have that much buzz because I have so much to talk about. The IMDb, I can't even talk. The Wikipedia page for this show that we're about to talk about is so long. It's crazy.
I didn't look at it. That's amazing.
I did. Lots to talk about.
Taylor loves the Wikipedia page.
When I first approached Rachel to do this podcast, I didn't bring this up immediately, but I brought it up at some point that I was like, hey, if we make it to 100 episodes, can we talk about Hamilton officially? Like, have it on the record.
It was like 2 seconds. It was like 2 seconds after I said
Yeah.
He was like, great. Okay, so at 100, we're going to talk about Hamilton. I was like, at least
I wanted to,
at least I
wanted
wait.
to give it some space. You got to give it some space. I mean, we've talked about it. We've talked around it. But Rachel and I are both wearing Hamilton colors today, so that's fun. What? Oh, you're wearing Allie and AJ. Yeah.
But I almost got my Hamilton mug and I realized I don't have it here. Sorry, I was so far away from the mic. But I do have Hamilton shot glasses.
Oh, I love
but
that.
I decided not to bring those out for this.
I love that.
Yeah.
Not throwing away my shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know
dueling? They're dueling. It's Hamilton and Burr.
They sing that line and take a shot right after. And we're done. No, I'm just kidding. What Skylar's sister are Allie and AJ?
That's hard. I feel like.
Wait. Allie is the more blonde one? Oh no. The curly haired one. Wait, which one is the more blonde one? I'm getting them confused.
I don't know how you're describing them.
Isn't there a curly haired one?
AJ, this is Allie. Allie's the brown haired one compared to.
Okay, yeah, she's Angelica.
No, I think AJ's Angelica. You think Allie's Angelica?
I think AJ's Philippa is Eliza.
Peggy.
You think she's Peggy?
I don't think either of them are Eliza.
Wow.
I'm putting neither of them as Eliza.
And at the end of this episode,
fans are gonna come out after me. Tell me your thoughts.
At the end of this episode, you'll find out which one of us is an Angelica and which one's an Eliza. Between the two of us.
I can't wait because I myself do not know. Okay.
Yeah. Tell us what you guys think. Oh, amazing. Yes, go ahead, Rachel, please.
I was gonna ask you, like we do with every episode on a deep dive, because this is a deep dive. How did you first hear about the musical? We're diving in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's me diving in. Just so you guys know, now that we're on video. Whoosh, I do that every time.
Yeah.
I have a long kind of history with this show. I really do. I don't know if you know this, Rachel. I'm
sure I know quite a bit of it. Yes.
I had heard about Lin-Manuel Miranda before Hamilton. Okay, here's the I do want to preface.
In the Heights. Duh, hello.
Yeah, because of In the Heights. I really want to preface, like, if you're just finding our podcast, this is a Hamilton episode. I'm sure there will be people that will search Hamilton podcast and then find us. By the way, there is actually a Hamilton podcast, and I had the host on my other podcast, and she is wonderful, and you guys should go check it out. It's called the Hamilcast. Highly recommend. But when you finish this, go check that out. But if you're just tuning in, I'm really not trying to be that person that's like, I knew about this before everyone else did. But this is just like my truth.
But he is. Though.
I'm just talking about my life, okay? And I have people to prove it. I really do. Like my family and my friends, like I have people to prove this. So obviously I knew of Lynn's work within the Heights. One day we will talk about that show. We'll talk about the movie. We'll get to it at some point. And loved him. And one day on Thanksgiving in 2010, I saw a video of Lin-Manuel Miranda rapping Alexander Hamilton at the White House. At a poetry slam, basically. Not a poetry slam. Mm-hmm. But it might have been 2009 actually. No, I don't know. But anyway, so that's when I first heard about anything about Hamilton. Didn't even know. I honestly did not even know who he was before this. I remember showing my family members this video, and I said, "Isn't this cool?" And they were like, "Yeah." And then that's what it was. Like there was no show, there was nothing. It was just a cool video, and I watched it about 10,000 times.
Taylor has it memorized.
Because I was a little theater loving pipsqueak, and I loved this video. And so was Lynn, honestly. He was really small at the time. Mm-hmm. It's really fun. They show we'll link it in the show notes if no one has ever seen this, but they like cut back to President Obama because this is like the first big arts event that President Obama and Michelle Obama, First Lady, hosted. and they like have these cut shots to like people in the crowd being like, what is this? Like, this is kind of strange. And then by the end of it, like everyone is like cheering and clapping and all these things. So cut to 2015. And I remember reading a Broadway.com article being like, Hamilton, an American musical going off Broadway to the public. I was like, what is and Lin-Manuel Miranda, all the things. I was like, what is this? This is so interesting. Didn't really know anything about, and then I kind of connected the dots and was like, oh, this is like the video, but not, and it's like an actual show. And actually, funny enough, that spring of 2015, Rachel and I and some friends went to New York, and we actually saw
Yes.
Hunchback of Notre Dame at the Paper Mill Playhouse. But I remember vaguely being like, oh, maybe we could go see this show at the public. Do you remember this, Rachel? Yeah.
Yes.
So we had a sliver of an opportunity to see the show when it was before on Broadway, before the phenomenon. But we did not. And there's a tiny part of me that was like, we should have done that because then we could have seen the reflecting pool. That was the choice. Yes, there was a reflecting pool on this show before it went to Broadway. Wonderful.
Incredible.
Yeah. And then I just, from there on, like once it transferred to Broadway, like it transferred in July, I think. And then when the album came out in September, and the album, I just remember the album coming out, and it was a huge deal. Like everyone was like, what is this show? Like it was very exclusive. And then once the album came out, it was like, we have this, like this is, and what I think, and obviously we'll talk about the music, but what I think is so great about this album is that it is the show. It's like Les Mis, like it really is like the show from top to bottom. And so like you were just given the gift of obviously you're like imagining it in your mind and you're not really seeing what's actually happening. But I remember like sitting in the library at my university when the album came out, September 25th, 2015. That's when the album came out. Also the day I started dating my wife, in case anybody wanted to know. And I played her You'll Be Back.
A monumental day. For more than one reason.
And I played her You'll Be Back. That was the first song we both
Most
heard.
Specifically Hamilton.
One of the first songs we both heard from the show. And anyway, so it just has I listened to that album like almost every day of college. Like that's what I listened to. And fast forward to 2018, on my wife and I's honeymoon, we got to see the show. Someone bought us tickets. In Chicago. And it's a big thing in my life personally, but also I think, and especially sitting down and seeing it live is like such a whole other experience. Flash forward to 2020, the Hamill film comes out on Disney Plus, and that's a whole other experience. And watching and going through this pandemic, going through quarantine and being isolated, and then finally getting this gift from the gods of Lin-Manuel Miranda while we're in quarantine of this.
While we're in the Great Panic.
Yeah, exactly. So lots of things to discuss. But anyway, all of that to say is that this show does mean a lot to me, and I really love it. And I can kind of trace all the steps from the beginning of like watching the White House video, watching and yeah, it's just, yeah, there's so much to say about it. But yeah, that's my experience, Rachel. I know there's a lot in there. I'm so sorry. But what is your experience?
Okay. I think that maybe I had a friend who was very obsessed with In the Heights while In the Heights was happening. And I remember her saying that, and I didn't understand. And she went to New York and she saw the show, and she was like, this is amazing. And I was like, okay, cool. But I still don't understand it. I was still living in my like other musical theater realms at that time, probably still living off of who even knows, Next to Normal, I'm sure. But anyway, doesn't matter. And I just remember her saying that. So that coincided with, at some point, you and my other friend are very like into being online and like theater trends and like what's happening, and I am not. I am more now than I ever have before in my life, because I'm normally just like, cool, like when it happens it'll happen and
Mm-hmm.
I'll find it. I think honestly Spotify really changed all of that for me, because
Yeah.
Throwback, I mean, even in 2014 I was 100% using Apple Music or iTunes or whatever it was called at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
Spotify really changed the trajectory for me, because you could like search what was that person and what other albums they were on and what other playlists they were on. And so then like that's actually how I learned the most about musicals, even still. But anyway, so I remember sitting at your kitchen table, Taylor, with this other friend and talking about Hamilton. And it maybe was transferring at the time. And we were sitting there looking at tickets. I remember
Mm-hmm.
sitting there looking at tickets. And even after that conversation with her, we kept like playing it back. Like, are we gonna get these tickets? I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
yada yada. School is gonna happen. I was going to school, back to college, and we were like, can we make this work? Blah, blah, blah. We ended up not getting tickets, not because we couldn't afford them, because at that time they were terribly expensive, but like not anywhere near where they were going to be for
Mm-hmm.
years. They were
Yeah.
just normal Broadway expensive, like $110. And
Well, and it wasn't
I
even
to
on
this day
Broadway
she will
yet.
say that is one of the no, but like normal like Broadway,
Right.
normal Broadway money, normal New York
Right.
money,
Yeah. Yeah.
110, 95, whatever, 85. And to this day, she will say she really regrets it. She will continue to tell me she regrets it. So I remember when the album came out, but more specifically, I remember trying to convince my parents. See, this was all a ploy, because I was trying to convince my parents. Now that I had missed this other window, now it was going to become more expensive. This is still before awards, still before
Mm-hmm.
Tony's.
Yeah. I
The
mean, it came
album
out.
came
It
out.
came out on Broadway a whole year before Tony season.
Yes,
So
but the album came out also before the Tonys,
right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Way before.
And so yes. And so we're on a family trip. We are driving in Arizona, New Mexico, and I'm like, this is the perfect time.
It's true.
We're gonna listen to a musical start to finish. My parents probably hated me, but we did it and they liked it, and I was like, yeah, let's go.
Hey.
Yeah, boy. Anyway, so that was the beginning. I went to New York in Oh, dang it, I didn't write it down. I went to New York when Ham for Ham was still happening. I actually saw the last Ham for Ham, I'm pretty sure the last or the second to last Ham for Ham show. That's right, the second to last Ham for Ham show, and we'll talk about who I saw and what Ham for Ham is for those who don't know. But anyway, that happened in 2016, the fall of 2016. Still had not seen Hamilton. It was like all the rage, but also I was just I was, I don't know, thinking about other things. But I was studying abroad, and I spent 1 week in London while I was studying abroad, between like during revision. So after classes ended and before my exams. And I spent it with a friend. But during the day, she had stuff to do with her family or had to revise, and I just would walk around. And one day I walked around the theater district, because I'm a crazy woman. And
Not crazy.
and they were putting in Hamilton had yet to come to the UK. It was opening, they were redoing the stage, they were working on things. And so I like would walk I walked by like 3 times that week. And at the same time, um the Harry Potter Cursed Child
Mm-hmm.
play was happening like a few doors down. So I would just like walk around the theater district. I had never been to the West End before. And so I just walked around, and finally I like I thought to myself, I wonder if they have like some kind of like advance ticket or something. And I went up to them. There was like a guy standing outside. I said, like, when do tickets go on sale? And he kind of told me. And then the Cursed Child thing also, they had like a rolling ticket lottery, and you could put in for what was going to be for 2018. That's so far away. It was the
Yeah.
fall of 2016. I mean, it was soon to be the 2017, but come on. I put in for that lottery for The Cursed Child in London, and I am back in the United States after the first of the year in 2017, and I get an email notification that I get to pick my seats for The Cursed Child, part 1 and 2. So in London, by
So
the way, I
crazy.
live in the United
Yeah.
States. And so I convinced my parents that we were going to get tickets for their tickets and my lottery tickets for Cursed Child. And of course, we should see Hamilton. So I went to the UK to see Hamilton, basically, is what happened. And I saw Hamilton January 2018
Mm-hmm.
in the UK. Very interesting. It was
I'm
amazing,
sure.
by the way, but it
Yeah.
was very interesting to see a very American musical. And when I say that, I mean written about American history and
Yeah.
also a rap musical in
Mm-hmm.
a place in the West End where like that just and like it just avant-garde is not how I would say the West End functions. You know, that's not that's not what I think of when
Yeah.
I think of the West
Yeah.
End.
Well, British
So
audiences
yeah,
are
but
very
anyway,
different than American audiences.
of
Yeah.
course, of course.
Yeah.
So that's my experience with Hamilton. I will say I did not watch the pro shot until literally a week and a half ago when I knew we
So
were doing
wild.
it.
Oh, so wild. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
I think I have a lot of feelings about Hamilton. Obviously, I know
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with the musical while it was happening, and then it became so overwhelmingly popular that I have really come to a point where I'm like, I don't like it. And now I think I may be coming back to a point where I like it. But it just was like so overwhelmingly in the pop culture and everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
people who, in my opinion, don't like musicals were like quoting it and pretending that they liked musicals, which is totally fine and part of the point. And
Right.
also, I was like, you're taking up space that like I'm supposed to be taking up. And also, this wasn't cool until now. And I feel like other things are still not cool about musical theater that we're just glossing over. But
Well, we'll see how
all
Mean
that to say,
Girls
that's my
does at the box
experience.
office.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't officially said too. Hamilton, an American musical, of course, a sung and rapped through
Yeah.
biographical musical with music, lyrics, and book by Lin-Manuel Miranda, based on the 2004 biography Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. Of course, the musical opened on Broadway August 6, 2015. It went on to receive uniformly positive reviews and high box office sales. At the 70th Annual Tony Awards, it was nominated for 16 nominations, a record breaking, and ended up winning 11. It won a Pulitzer Prize for drama. Lin won the MacArthur Genius Grant during this time. There was a production in Chicago that opened in September 2016. The West End production, as Rachel said, in 2017. It won 7 Olivier Awards in 2018, and there's been a bunch of national tours, U.S. national tours. And then also the first non-English language production opened in Hamburg, Germany in October 2022.
Crazy.
Crazy.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's just crazy
yeah,
to think that people who are listening to a Theater Nerd podcast don't know about Hamilton is just like it just in this current century, it just isn't
yeah,
happening.
yeah. It is truly like I think people talk about like Rent phenomenon or even Cats phenomenon we talked about when we talked about Cats. Rawr. Or meow. Or yeah. Or Wicked phenomenon. Like I feel like Hamilton is so different in a sense. I mean, obviously we lived through it, so there's that. Like we didn't really live through. I mean, we lived through Wicked, but we were a little young for that. And I feel like the social media was like just at its like the right peak of Hamilton and where the country
Hmm.
was like everything in the world was setting up Hamilton to be the success that it was. However, I was thinking in the car today driving listening to Hamilton preparing for this. I was thinking what if Hamilton had come out and it had just been like another show and it was like Like, could you even imagine that? It's just crazy to think like that could have happened. It could have just come to Broadway and it would have been like, oh, remember that show about that rap show that Lin-Manuel Miranda did?
Yeah.
And like it could have been In the Heights. In the Heights was very successful for what it was, but before Hamilton, no commoner knew In the Heights. Like nobody
Yeah.
knew that.
Theater nerds,
Yeah.
people knew.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about why we think this is. I mean, I think it obviously has become synonymous with pop culture, right? Like
Right.
there was a point when Hamilton itself was pop culture. Like random people who are not
Right.
theater people were quoting Hamilton. Oprah is quoting Hamilton. My
Oh,
my history teacher is quoting Hamilton. It's like a slogan. It was like branded everywhere. I mean, like, I just can't even imagine the royalties on some of the words and like the faces and like all of that. And I mean, it just it became this whole thing. And here's my brief soapbox, although I haven't thought about it long on why this is the case. Number one, Americans love American history.
true.
Love it.
Very
We love
proud.
we're very proud. This was a time when for many years we have already not to the extent that we do now, but in our minds at that point we were like, we're experiencing such division, how terrible it is. Wouldn't it be nice to just go to a musical where or something where we feel like invested in who we are while also like learning something and yada yada. And I would say like I really think that the presidency really lent itself to this kind of space, taking up space in like popular culture as well as like on Broadway. And so those are two separate points. And then I would say the third thing is we love novelty. Like the whole show feels like Les Mis in the sense of being sung through, but also it is like very not. But it is not so not that white people are afraid of it. And like
Right.
that's a real part of this. Like
Yeah.
when you think about the Broadway audience, it is majority still. It is unfortunately majority upper middle upper class.
Right. Right.
And so to have a show that speaks to so many different types of audiences or alternatively doesn't ostracize audiences is a big deal, both on in terms of the box office but in ticket sales, but also in terms of like how it could become a part of our history.
I think at a certain point too, the narrative of this show is actually as good as people are saying it
Yes.
is what carried it through to a phenomenon. And I think just the like people talking about it, and I mean when it was off Broadway, I think the biggest thing was that so many celebrities were going off Broadway that it was like, oh, I guess this is something people need to look out for, people that pay attention to that.
Yeah.
But once the album came out, I think it just like blew up even from there. But I think again, people are like, even I remember when the Hamilton film came out on Disney Plus, the Pro Shot. I mean, there were film podcasts I listened to that were like, oh, I hadn't, I'd heard that it was good. It came to my town, but I just didn't get a chance to see it. And then I finally watched it and I was like, damn, like 2 songs in, I was like, damn, this is actually really good. And it's like, no duh, no
This is
shit,
really
Hamilton
good.
is good. Like everyone says
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah. I think that
yeah,
that's right. Like the hype actually it lives up to the hype because it actually is set apart and set
yeah,
above.
yeah, yeah.
Is it overdone? Maybe. Like is it overdone
Sometimes for sure.
in the theater space? Maybe.
Hmm.
Like would we wish that it was taking up less theater space? Maybe. But
Hmm.
I think that yeah, I mean, there is no part of the show where you're like, "Ah, it could be better."
No, I have thoughts on that, but we're going to pause here and talk about criticisms of the show. We're going to talk about critiques because when I actually, in preparing for this, I listened to a couple podcasts that I'll link in the show notes if you guys want to listen to. Some of them back when the Hamilton film came out, some of them just in general of when Hamilton was going on during its craze. because I feel like it has died down a little bit too. I think it got some hype again once the film came out, but now I mean, like everyone, it is funny when I talk about doing a theater podcast, everyone's like, "Oh, do you like Hamilton?" That's like one of the first things that people
It is.
ask,
It is.
which
I
is
will
funny.
say, it is a language. It is the piece of language that non-theater people
Hmm.
can speak to theater people, I think.
True,
Yeah.
true.
Hmm.
A lot of this criticism that I found was actually had more come to light when the Hamilton film came out on Disney Plus in 2020 because of events that
Yeah.
had happened
Yeah.
prior to the Hamilton film, among them the George Floyd murder, the Black Lives Matter marches,
Right.
and kind of the unrest in the social unrest, injustice in our country of racial inequality, which has been going on for obviously hundreds of years, but coming to light a little bit more with those events. And because of that, there was a historian by the name of Lyra Montero. I believe she wrote they wrote a article kind of back when Hamilton first came out about their criticisms about Hamilton, but then also there's an interview that came out with Slate.com that came out with them that I highly recommend reading because it's just fascinating, and I'll link it in the show notes. But Montero wrote in their kind of article about the show, they said, quote, with a cast dominated by actors of color, the play is nonetheless yet another edition of the, quote, exclusive past with its focus on the deeds of great white men and its silencing the
Mm.
presence of contributions of people of color. She also writes about the first lines of the show, quote, Hamilton got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a self-starter. It's the idea that we have in this country that the American dream is achievable if you work enough, and if you are poor and unsuccessful, it's because you didn't try, and therefore you deserve what you have, or rather what you don't have. End quote.
No, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
love that.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
wait, I want to caveat what I said before about how the show. I think musically, like as a musical, I don't think that there's anything personally that this show could have done better to be a better musical as a musical. But as someone who loves musicals, I mean, I remember hearing a lot of things about Hamilton, even when it was at the peak of
Hmm.
everything related to
Yeah,
criticisms. And I'm like, have you ever seen another musical? Have you ever sat down and said, yeah, this musical fully depicts the full meaning of, like, have you watched
right,
musical theater? Like,
right.
there is not enough time and space to deal
Yeah.
with every single complexity. Does that mean that we should not be like considering this argument? Absolutely not. I completely agree. But would this be an argument that we would have if it was SpongeBob? Like, if it was something that only theater nerds know? No, I don't think so. Like, there are so many shows, including shows that have recently won Tonys and Best Musicals, where I'm like, that does not explain or fully make a picture of everyone who should have been a part of that dialogue. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it can, because of the way that it is as a musical. The medium, I
Hmm.
guess, is what I'm saying. The medium doesn't always lend itself to what a critical essay, a film, or even a play might be able to
Hmm.
lend itself to.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, well, first of all, I want to talk, like, we're talking as two white individuals. So obviously, if you want to hear other
Yes, absolutely.
commentary on it,
Yes, no,
please,
of
we're not the
course.
experts in this, but I think Montero's argument in talking about, I think the show itself kind of took, unfortunately, maybe not even unfortunately, took on that narrative because it is a historical show, and with the
Right.
what she doesn't, or they don't call it colorblind casting, but they call it like what race conscious casting is what
I like that.
yeah, they talk about. I do want to mention, I mean, obviously we're talking about a little part of the, their their historical work on it. Go read the interview, go read their article if you want to learn more about it. But in 2020, obviously this is a tweet, so we can't, but Lin responded. Someone on Twitter tweeted at him and said, "I'm late
Yes.
with the Hamilton criticism stuff, and I'm clearly biased, but I really like this conversation is happening. Hamilton, the play, and the movie were given to us in two different worlds, and our willingness to interrogate things in this way feels like a clear sign of change." And Lynn responds, "Appreciate you so much. All the criticisms are valid. The sheer tonnage of complexities and failings of these people I couldn't get or wrestled with but cut. I took 6 years and fit as much as I could into a 2.5-hour musical. Did my best. It's all fair game."
Yeah, I think that's a great response. I think that it
Yeah.
doesn't belittle like the real. I remember seeing that tweet. This was a
Yeah.
big deal when all of these things were coming out because I feel we were obviously 2020, besides a pandemic, we were all sitting at home being able to critique big commercial things that had never taken a stance
Yeah.
one way or another about racial inequities. And we were
Mhm.
like, the time is now, everyone. And I completely get
Yeah.
that. And also, I think that there is a space for critique. I mean, when I think about Shakespeare's work, I hope that when anyone is doing anything related to Shakespeare, that we're critiquing the fact of, is this a narrative because we believe that women actually are this way, or is this a critique on how we believe women are this way,
Mhm.
right? Like, I
Mhm.
don't know, but we should constantly be having that conversation when we are putting in place something that feels like otherisms or isn't like fully allowing everyone to have the space in the
Mhm.
narrative.
Mhm.
Completely agree with that. And I think if we ever get a time where it's not Scamilton to do Hamilton, I really hope that those are the
Right.
conversations that like little theater troops are having of like, how are we going to cast this? How do we want to do this? What does this feel like? Will we read this experience differently? Um,
Mhm.
yeah, all
Yeah.
of those things.
And honestly, I have watched so many interviews with Lin-Manuel Miranda and the creative team around Hamilton. I mean, honestly, probably thousands in the past 8 years it's been on Broadway. And
Taylor.
Miranda, I feel like
Obsessed with Taylor.
it's true. From the beginning, they have been so clear of like, this is just like a dramatic retelling of his life, and some things, he took dramatic license. I mean, for example, like Angelica was actually married when he met Hamilton and had other siblings and had brothers and things like that. And in the show,
Right.
Angelica is single when she meets Hamilton. So things like that he took artistic license. And the tagline that the creative team used to say was, "This is a story of America then told by America now," which I always thought was like such a great like way of explaining it. Um,
Hmm.
but it is interesting to think about, like, there's really not that many references to slavery in the piece. There's really like there's little things like, if you notice in What Did I Miss, which is the Thomas Jefferson number, like they're all wearing gloves, which is supposed to symbolize like that they're all the servants and the slaves. And then obviously he
Yeah.
referenced Sally in like one line, Sally Hemings,
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson. But like, another big critique I heard about this show, and then we'll move on from this, is that um like George Washington is like this venerated person in the show
Right.
and this huge, but he also like owned a lot of people and like was a huge slave owner. So like, obviously you're weighing both of these things, but I also think like, even going back and watching the show again, like I haven't watched it or listened to it in a while because I just did for 5 years straight or whatever, that
For so long.
yeah, that I just don't think that's not what this show is trying to do. They're not trying to like another writer would have been like, okay, that's what I want to focus on, and that's the story, like Slave Play or something. Obviously it's not like, something like that, like that's like the show, like that's what that show's message is. But Hamilton is talking about a different message, and it's focusing on like one man's experience. Even equating it to, there was some criticism over Oppenheimer this summer, like people were like,
Mm,
well, why didn't you even talk about the Okinawa at all, like the atom bomb, like decimating these people. And a lot of people, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but Christopher Nolan has talked about how this is
yeah.
like one singular. The movie is about this one man singular point of view, and his the effect that the atom bomb had on his life. And I
Hmm.
think it's a little bit similar with Hamilton. Hamilton is a straight. I mean, there's obviously other characters that you follow, but it's straight up and down. Like just it's Hamilton's point of view, and it's his. It's about it's told through his lens. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I could have many thoughts about all of this.
yeah.
I think one of the things that come to mind when thinking about this specifically, about how other people have been left out of the narrative, or that we haven't expressed like the full picture of what was actually happening at the time, is that that feels like a place where it's not urgent to do that. Where like I've heard people say, well, that's a critique, like that you feel that it's not urgent for you to have that position, or
Hmm.
for you to not be able, or not use this part of this story or this platform to speak to that. A totally fair critique. I am thankfully not Lin-Manuel Miranda. I do not have a big platform. I don't have to, like the idea of how to utilize who my platform looks so much different than someone who's writing a musical, or someone who's
Hmm.
producing pop songs, or someone who is, an Emmy winner and has their own like TV show, right? Like
Mm.
obviously all those platforms are different, and the idea of urgency of expressing other people's stories, or a group of people's stories, can feel different. And I totally get that. So I think that I agree in the sense that I think that the point of Hamilton is not are not those things. I actually don't think it's really about, I don't really think it's about American history, to be honest. I think it's like this complicated love story and betrayal. And if we changed the characters and changed the setting, it easily could be a Greek tragedy, or a love
Hmm.
story, or a Jane Austen
Right.
musical, right? Like there
Right.
are a lot of things about this that, to me, the point is not, well, who are we as Americans? I think it's great if that's something that we're thinking about, or like who are like, we need to rewrite our story or whatever. And I get how you can feel that way, especially because of the last song. But I think that this is actually, like you were saying, about someone's experience and their experiences with other people versus really America, even though it's told in the setting of America and American history as the players of the narrative. I think if you strip all those things away, you actually might see something very close to other storylines that are
Mm.
not all that different. Should it
Well, I
be
think
more politically engaged? Maybe.
maybe this. I think what's kind of genius about this show is that it goes up to the line of political conversation, but then it leaves it there, and it has you ask those questions and go, if you want to go dive deeper, you can. And I think that's kind of ultimately, I mean, we talk about this on the show, like entertainment, like this is entertainment, and it's what it's supposed to do. It's, but I feel like art and entertainment at a certain point is just supposed to like cause conversation. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but like it's helping
Yeah.
people dive back into, it's having people have these conversations. It's having one person be like, this is the most amazing thing ever created, and it's perfect the way it is. And then also having the historian I was talking about, that talking about the criticisms, like both can be true and valid.
Right. And an ingenious part of this is that you are not ostracizing either parts of those experiences. Like a musical that allows both kinds of people or all kinds of people in and is able to be the place where communication and conversation start is actually crazy. And the second thing is, isn't that what all like really good, powerful musicals do? Is they make you question who you are and the choices you're making in the world that you're in. And once again, I'm not trying to belittle the political part of or the American history part of Hamilton, but to
Right.
me, if we're thinking about like Les Mis or we're thinking about Next to Normal, which are to me very powerful musicals, I don't leave thinking that I'm going to join the French Revolution, but I do think
I
about
wish you
like
did.
these right, but I do think about these power structures that are making people and little children die for no reason. And I
Hmm.
think like are there right like it's not thrown in my face like oh I should think about how that's
Right.
related to me because it's a classic musical now. But like
Hmm.
Next to Normal or there are many other shows where I
Hmm.
leave thinking, "Oh, I feel like I'm learning something," you know? You're learning something about yourself and you're being able to have a space where you think about what you're experiencing and what the world is trying to make you experience versus what you
Hmm.
want to experience. And I think that that's all powerful musicals. And I don't think that that means that this is not especially or differently powerful. I'm just saying, I think when you strip it down, there are a lot of like, I don't think that Lynn was like, yeah, I'm going to just write a musical about American history. I think
Hmm.
Lynn was like, I'm going to write a musical and this is how I'm going to do it. But he was
Hmm.
very, from what I understand, very engrossed in big, big musical people like Rent or like people. When I say people, I mean musicals like Rent and Les Mis and other musicals that really made him think, what do these shows think and make me feel, and how
Hmm.
do I portray that in a different way, but in a similar kind of way through this medium that I'm making.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of influences on this show, and I also think like because of the amount of time that Lynn took to write this show,
6 years.
um, it's not like he didn't think about these things. Like
Yeah.
he thought a lot about all of this. I feel
Well,
like
yeah, I don't think that that means we can't critique him.
no,
I think it's
that's true.
great. It's great. I think great things come from critiques of other people.
Yeah,
We wouldn't have Hamilton without Rent,
yeah, for sure. I mean,
right?
we wouldn't have Lin Manuel Miranda without Rent. Period. So
Right. So
right.
there's this, right? Like, and Rent was not,
Hmm.
is by no means without critique, both on the musical side and also on the, like, what is
Yeah,
the messaging and who have we left
yeah.
out? And so I think critique, if we allow it to,
Hmm.
can create even better
Hmm.
things in the same
Yeah,
space.
yeah, for sure. Let's transition to the music because there's a lot to say also
Yes.
with that.
There's
I
9
kind of
bajillion songs.
think that from a musical standpoint, it's kind of perfect. I just
That's what
want
I
to say
said
that.
earlier.
I know, I know. I'm just adding to it. It is like every song is
Taylor
good.
wants
I'm
the
not even
credit.
saying like even just going through like watching it again on Disney Plus, I was like, wow, every part of this show is good. And I think what ultimately, obviously, we were talking about the phenomenon part of it and the hype, the hype of it. You know, you came to the show and then you were like, oh, the hype is actually real. Is that every single part of it is good? It's not just the music, but it's also the costumes. It's also the lighting design of the show is
The
unbelievable.
choreography,
The
freaking
choreography
amazing.
is insane.
The
The
set.
set is simple, but I think is also just incredible, and it should have won set design. But I will get off my soapbox about that. Um, and just every single piece of the show comes together to make it what it is.
Yeah.
If it was just like, and there's so much of it that also could have gone wrong too, like that that could have been bad, but every single part of it is so intentional. I feel like and show like thought and cared for. But yeah, there's like I mean I think there's like 46 songs in the show, so there's a lot of songs.
There are 46 songs, 2 hours and 22 minutes.
Yes, it's 240
But there's
on Disney
actually
Plus.
there's actually, right, an extra song that's not in the album.
Correct.
That's in the show.
Yeah. Which is the Story of Tonight reprise with John Lawrence and the letter from him. Yeah, let's talk about, I mean, there's a lot of songs I love in this show, obviously. Do you have what do you think about the music, and what's your favorite song?
The music is crazy, and I still do not know all the lyrics. I was not one of those people where I was like, I'm gonna learn the entire Guns and Chips. It wasn't me. It was never gonna be me. It wasn't me. I was over
We'll post
here
a video on our Instagram of us trying to do it though,
just singing
this week. Yeah.
No. What's so funny is that some of the one-liners are so good. Like you're just like, how many edits did you do to get this as the one-liner? Oh my God. I think the best part about the music is actually the acting. And I know that that's very weird, and then I'll name my actual favorite song or songs, but the acting is it comes across so well with the music, and I don't know of a lot of shows where every character is a character. Let me explain more. There's almost always a character actor, right? Like that person who like, who's like playing it up, and their songs are like kind of sung, talked, and like they have like maybe one big number, and they're like jazz hands, or whatever. They're like the character. Every single person in this show is a caricature of
Ed
their
and
character
is what
in
you're
a way
talking
that
about. Right.
Yes, and it really comes across in the music, and that makes sense because the music is the dialogue.
But except Burr, if you think about it, he's the only one.
No, but that's his character. His character is not having a character. He literally has no backbone. He has nothing to like. He has no substance, and that's
right.
That's the point. So I really love it. It's genius. I don't know if that was intentional or if it just happened, but it's amazing. And I will say, obviously, the people we get some of the most character from are sometimes in the rapping. You get some real good one-liners, but I would say the character of all characters from this musical has just a few songs, and that would be the king, Jonathan Groff himself.
Right.
He'll be back, and all three of those songs are incredible. They're incredible. That's not necessarily my favorite, but I think it is my favorite in the sense of it is just stylistically so very different from every other song. It's very Beatles. It's very British. It's a love song from the King of England to the
It's colonies. A breakup song.
Oh yeah, but it's also a love song, and it's so weird. It's just like, who thought of this? It's so good.
Yeah, he wrote it on his honeymoon. Did you know this?
Unexpected, I would say. I know.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yeah. Which I'm like, wow, his wife, what a woman. Yeah,
his wife does seem amazing. I just gotta shout that out. Shout out to Vanessa.
Yes.
Like, wow.
But I think that my actual favorite song might be Dear Theodosia.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Not a hot take. I think that's a great song.
It's so good. Okay, what about you?
That's a really good choice.
There are so many songs. It's hard to choose.
My favorite song in the whole show is Satisfied, and I think it's also the best song in the show. I think when you boil it down, I think Satisfied is the best writing that Lin has done. I know maybe that is a hot take, but
I'm just trying to figure out why that over other things.
I think and also when you combine the staging of it too, like the rewind part, obviously we use that in our Tony's Rewind, there is a reason, but
yes.
But the staging of it feels very cinematic, which I think is incredible. And I just have seen, obviously there's lots of what are they called? Wow, my brain is not working right now. There's lots of the spinning the
Turntables.
turntable. Thank you. I cannot think of the word.
Turntables.
Lazy Susans. There's
I knew
lots of
it.
Lazy Susans. There's lots of turntables in theater, but the way that the turntable is used in Satisfied is something that I have never seen in a musical, and I think it is so well staged.
Can we just have a quick tangent? Just a quick tangent.
Yeah. Quick tangent.
Hamilton has done for the turntables like nobody else. Like it really, I need some data points. Someone data mine this for me. How many musicals after Hamilton started to have a turntable because of Hamilton?
Yeah.
I just need some quick points. I know that they existed before, but I felt like immediately after everyone was like, gotta get a turntable. That's clearly what made Hamilton so great.
Right. And Les Mis had been doing it for like 30 years. Yeah. I do think it's funny that
from your point.
Like my wife and I were watching Queen Charlotte the other day, and I was like, I don't think we'd have Bridgerton if not for Hamilton. Like, I really don't think we would have.
I love that take.
Yeah.
Although we did have the books, to be clear, before.
Yes, Hamilton. But I mean, like the casting choices in Bridgerton. Yes.
I hear you.
I think there are 5 songs in the show that are like, these are the ones that I always come back to, which are Satisfied, Wait for It, The Room Where It Happens, You'll Be Back, and Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story. Those are the ones that I think almost pretty much every song in the show is a banger, but I think those 5 in particular are like, wow, these are like elevated for me, at least. So there are 1 or 2 songs that I'll skip, but I still love them.
What's the song you skip? What
like Stay Alive.
This is what we should
like Stay
said.
Alive. I don't know.
That's a song you skip?
I'm like, I've heard it so many times now that I'm like, it's fine. I don't know if I skip any in the second act, to be honest. I do think, which act do you think is stronger? I kind of, I don't know. Because they're both very different.
For sure.
Interesting. A lot of people say the second act is stronger.
Yeah, I definitely think the first act reads to me as a historical fiction, Like it's really giving me the pre-Bridgerton energy I needed.
Right.
And the second act, I'm like, why is everything so sad and so tragic? And also I hate America and guns and like all this. And I feel like I'm watching the John Adams documentary or the series on HBO. So I think maybe it's just because I really like the first act because it feels like there's a lot of like pettiness and like things are at stake, but not in the same way as the second act.
It's interesting because the first act feels like a trajectory of like the war and like getting it finished, and it's like going up, and the second act is like starting and then it's like coming down a little bit, and we're starting the country, we're like building these new things, and then obviously the tragedy of spoiler Philip Hamilton dying.
Big spoiler.
It's Quiet Uptown. Also another like it's sad, but it's such a banger. It's so good. It's so well written and so good.
Good.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
That's what it just amazes me. And what's interesting is every interview that you find with a cast member, which we'll transition to the cast, of course, is that almost every single cast member cites Wait for It as their favorite song. Isn't that so interesting? I find that so fascinating.
That's so funny. I do want to talk I have 2 more things about the songs before.
Oh, yeah.
So you might have this in your fun facts, but I'm stealing them. So I looked up how long how many words. There's someone who has calculated how many words are in the show. And it's like over 200,000 words.
It's crazy.
That's crazy. That'd be crazy. And you know how many that would take if you were just like singing naturally and like not having. When I say naturally, I mean like it's Les Mis, like singing like
singing
it's Les Mis. Sorry, I don't know why I said it like that. But like singing like it's Les Mis. it would be like 6 hours. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's so long. That's so
it's
much
wild.
information. He
I
packed
know.
so many words, so many things in there.
I
It's
know.
that no wonder at the end you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God. But I think that that's also partly why the music is so cool, is because there are these songs where you're like, how am I simply going to take in all the information that's
Mhm.
currently happening? And then a few songs later, you're like, okay, I got it. Right? Like I'm
Yeah.
here and I'm experiencing the emotion. I think I don't know how he decided in which order things needed to go musically, but
True.
that's really cool. And
Well, and
then
there's so
Guns and
many callbacks and
yes,
foreshadowing in the piece. Like there's so much foreshadowing. It's crazy.
yes,
Um
yes.
and so much is like echoing each other that is very interesting and very intentional. I do think I always tell people when they watch the Hamilton film is I'm like, watch it with subtitles. Like it will help you immensely. Like it really will if you're watching it for the first time. So just a
Yeah.
little PSA from me to you.
But I will say Guns and Chips, which once again I will never be rapping because I cannot speak that fast. 6.3 words per second.
Yeah. Insane.
What?
So insane.
I'm just saying, that's crazy. That's amazing. It's
Let's
amazing.
talk about
But
this
it's
cast. Do you think that
okay.
Lin will put himself in his next musical?
I always like saying people are pulling a Lin when they're like directing and starring.
Right. Bradley
They
Cooper.
wrote, directed, and
Maestro.
starred.
Right.
Also,
Yeah.
Daniel Levy in that new
Yes.
Good Grief movie.
Yes. I've not watched it yet. Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet either, but it's on my
Yeah.
list.
Review to come on our Letterboxd.
Uh,
Um yeah, this cast is just insane. I just wanna go through because I looked through almost every single principal original cast member has gone on to do so many successful and I mean some things more than others,
yeah,
but they have gone on to continually work in the business, which is so hard to do. And
yes,
even if you're in a hit show, I mean, even if you think about like the Rent original cast, like there's maybe two people that we like still know and are working, like actively working. I mean, everyone may be still working.
and some of them are doing tours.
Right. Right.
Like, yeah, not that that's
Yeah.
beneath them, but you're like,
Right.
shouldn't you be on Broadway?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Again, okay, obviously Lin, he's like maybe one of the most well recognized figures in American theater right now. He has done many things. He's writing Moana while he was performing the show, which is insane. He has done, Encanto, which ended up being like maybe one of the biggest hits of his career, even though Hamilton is also up there. But Encanto, like, friggin' was huge. It was crazy. Um,
yeah,
Leslie Odom Jr. has such an interesting career. I mean, he wins the Tony Award for this role. He then goes
yeah.
on and is in like Murder on the Orient Express. Obviously, before this, he was on Smash, which we all love. And then he goes on
Smash.
to be in,
Hello.
yeah,
Yeah.
hello, amazing. Harriet, the movie Harriet, The Many Saints of New York, the Sopranos prequel,
He has
Glass
his own album
Onion,
drop.
yeah, the Christmas
He
album, which
starts
is like huge for
touring.
him.
He has
Yeah,
another
huge
album
for
that's not
him.
a Christmas
Yeah,
album
right,
that he drops and
right.
it's not in
Yeah.
tours.
He's
He
in
came
the
to my
Knives Out
university to
sequel.
sing.
Oh yes, he did. He did. The Knives Out
Yeah.
sequel, which is amazing. He's not that big in it, but I love that movie so much. And this is the thing is that Oscar nominated for One Night in Miami, which was the 2020 year, and literally no one talks about this. I'm like, Leslie Odom Jr. was freaking Oscar nominated for a role. Whatever. Okay, I love this.
Yeah.
Philippa Sue, I think maybe out of all the principal people, as much as I love Philippa Sue, she's one of the only people that like has kind of gone up and down in her career since
Hmm.
Hamilton. Um, I mean, she's done some movies, but not to anything of the degree of like any of the other principal. She hasn't been in a long running TV show like some of the other principal characters, but she has done a lot of theater. She did Amelie on Broadway. She did Suffs at the Public, which we'll see if she'll come back for that on Broadway. She did Into the Woods, of course. She did Camelot. lots of things.
We know
And
how that went.
on her Wikipedia, it's Gutenberg, the producer, One Night Only. So love that.
Love that for her.
Yeah. Renee Elise Goldsberry playing Angelica. First of all, she originated Nettie in The Color Purple, which I did not know. Amazing.
So,
But she has again gone
so
on to
good.
have such an interesting career after Hamilton. She
Girls
goes
5 Eva.
on, yeah, Girls 5 Eva. She goes on to do that. She does a bunch of television work, other roles. She's in She-Hulk on Disney Plus, the Marvel show. I'm just like, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Christopher Jackson, of course, longtime collaborator with Lynn, was in the Heights. He was in a lot of other Broadway shows. He went on after Hamilton to go be in 6-season running CBS show Bull. Did you ever watch Bull or know what
No.
Bull is? Yeah.
Mm-mm.
We're not the target audience for Bull.
Do
but
I watch CBS only
Yeah.
for the Tony Awards?
Right. But again, 6 seasons. I mean, that's him. That's paying his house. I mean,
Yeah.
Hamilton's probably also paying for a house, but that's
Yeah.
like helping pay for a lot of things. So that's good on him. He's also in the Sex and the City and Just Like That revival. So good for him. Daveed Diggs, one of the biggest careers since Hamilton. I mean,
Love him.
obviously, of course, goes on to keep doing his rapping career, but lots of television. Snowpiercer has a lead role in that show. Blind Spotting, which is a movie he makes, but then produces the TV show with another Hamilton star, which we'll talk about. But movies, he's done Velvet Buzzsaw. He's done Soul. He had a little part in Soul, but then of course recently last year he played Sebastian the Crab in Hamilton in The Little Mermaid.
In Hamilton.
Yeah.
And he's in that show, Central Park.
Oh yeah, Central Park. Yeah. Or Central Park.
Yeah, Central
Yeah,
Park.
yeah.
It's an animated show.
Yes, which is leaving Apple TV though, is what I heard. Or like it's not coming back for another season.
Mm-hmm.
But sad.
Mm-mm. No.
Yeah.
Sad.
Anthony Ramos, John Lawrence, and Philip Hamilton, also another huge career. I mean, goes on to do A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper as Lady Gaga's best friend. And then goes on to starring in The Heights. And then this last summer, he was in Transformers. So it's just wild. That is so crazy. Okay, I want to make sure I say this name right. Okarita Anna Doan, but Oak is how they refer to him, playing Hercules Mulligan and James Madison. He goes on to be in Station 19, which is a long-running ABC show, and he's in that for like 100 episodes or something. I mean, again, they're just getting these houses paid for. That's all I'm saying. And then he of course goes on to
in the bag.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. I just want these people to buy a house. He of course goes on to star as a replacement in Natasha Pierre in The Great Comet of 1812, which was a huge thing that should not have been a thing. And then last year was on the revival of A Doll's House with Jessica Chastain. So good for him. I'm just saying this cast is insane. Of course, King George III, Jonathan Groff himself.
It's crazy.
I mean, we've talked about. Go listen to our deep dive with Jonathan Groff. I mean,
Groff's house.
Yeah, incredible.
Love my life.
Mary Long. Will he win his Tony this year? Only time will tell. Last but not least, Jasmine Cephas Jones playing Peggy Schuyler goes on to do the Blind Spotting movie with Daveed Diggs, but then also goes on to do the TV show. She's also in Marriage Story as a theater actor. You can see her in the background. I've watched that movie. Origin is a movie that's coming out this year directed by Ava DuVernay. She has a big role in that. And she's also doing a music career herself. And also her dad was in This Is Us. So cool. I just gotta say that. Every single principal cast member has done so well after. And then you look at the ensemble.
Last but not. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The ensemble, I mean, like Ephraim Sykes has gone on to do stuff. There's a freaking Oscar winner in the ensemble, Ariana DeBose. Who knew that would happen? I love watching the pro shot and just watching Ariana DeBose in every scene. It's so fun.
So good.
It is. That's the thing about the Hamilton effect, is that it really projected people's careers like I feel like no other show. I mean, maybe Wicked, but in the modern era, like it's kind of crazy.
Well, and I think this goes back to what I said before. It literally ran right into popular culture. Like this, like I think about Spring Awakening, a lot of those people
Right.
had a really good career and still do have a really good career post that. Obviously, they were children basically, and also mostly in the theater industry,
Mm-hmm.
but not always. But this, I mean, first of all, there are way more people in the cast, and also
Yeah.
it hit popular culture, and that's when you see this like Hollywood shake hands
Mm-hmm.
with the theater world. Because it got so much buzz. It got so much buzz so quickly, especially I think because of the
Mm-hmm.
cast album, that people then knew those people's names who were in the show. Also, the show is so unique that every single character, especially the principal roles, are so important,
Yeah.
and they're constantly present and coming in and out of the show. And if their character dies, they come back as some other character. You know what I mean? Like you just have like all
Mm-hmm.
these other, or like it's, there's people who play more than one character. But
Yeah.
I do think that this Hamilton effect, as you called it, is related to the pop culture Hollywood versus just it being such a great musical. Although possible, but I bet all these people would have stayed in if it was just Tony, like won all those Tonys and that's it, and it didn't
Mm-hmm.
reach popular culture. Almost all those people would probably have good work for sure, but
Right.
it would not be 6 seasons on CBS.
Right. I wonder.
You know what I
True.
mean?
I
Or the
wonder
Bowl, whatever.
if
That's
Ariana DeBose probably still would have auditioned for West Side Story though, and probably still gotten that, which is
probably.
interesting.
Yeah, I'm not saying
'Cause
that none of
yeah.
this wouldn't have
No,
happened. I'm
I
just
know.
thinking about
I just like to think of the what
how
ifs.
vast it happened, like
Yeah. Yeah.
how much
Yeah.
it happened across the board. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also you have to realize that some of those people were already Broadway people, and so then they were
Mm-hmm.
breaking out from Broadway, even though they were on Broadway, into other places through
Yeah.
their roles in Hamilton. So,
For sure. Tell me about your experience watching the pro shot for the first time.
well, it has been I'm trying to think of how many years. It's been
4, right?
three.
You saw it in 2018.
January 2018.
So
So
it's been
more than that.
6 this
2024.
year.
Hello.
Yeah. 6 this year.
Math is hard. Yeah, wow. Okay, so it's been 6 years since I've seen it. No, that's not
That's
true because I
crazy.
saw it. That's not true because I saw it when it came to Richmond, whenever that was,
Oh, okay.
right before
So
the
you lied in
pandemic.
the beginning. I'm just kidding.
No, because that was second. That was the second time I'd seen it.
Oh, so you saw it in London first.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I see. I
Yes,
see. So
absolutely.
you saw it in 2019 or 2020 second.
I think it was 2019 because it couldn't have been 2020.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So anyway, all that to say, it's been about 5 years since I've seen the musical, so it was enough time that had passed for me to watch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I think, it's so funny. Someone said to me the other day, they did not know we were recording a podcast about, or that I record a podcast at all, so they didn't even know. But they said, I tried to watch the Hamilton Pro Shot and I couldn't do it because I just was so mad that I wasn't there watching it happen live while this was happening.
Wow.
So I made it 30 minutes in and said, you know what? I want to see this first on the stage. And that is
I love that.
a very fair point.
Mm-hmm.
And I
if
think
you
that,
have the money.
Oh my God, Mike, hello. I think that may be partly why I was like, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch it because one, when I saw it, especially in London, it was so special. It was unbelievably special. I still follow every principal character on social media because I just really loved them. And I don't, like I just was so excited for that cast and like what they were doing. And it was amazing to see it on stage. And I will say the second time I saw it in our theater in Richmond was not as good. I chalk this all up to my sound design in that theater. I hate the sound design so much. But also it wasn't as intimate, and I had just seen it, and it like when you watch it set apart, it is very powerful versus when you're
Mm-hmm.
watching it again, or you're repeating that experience, you notice things that maybe is not the emotional piece that you experienced for the first time. So I can totally see why I didn't want to watch the pro shot, because one, I was jealous of people who got to see this live. And I think that I was afraid I was going to miss the experience, like miss out on the
Mm-hmm.
experience because I'm watching it in this different way or watching it too close to other things. Um, yeah, but I would say it was amazing. It was so good. I can physically feel the spit coming from Jonathan Groff. It was amazing. Um, Obviously, you don't have to worry about sound design issues, which is
True.
so good.
What did you think of the
I
shots from like behind,
I
like where it
didn't
would
love
go
that.
behind? Oh,
I
okay.
don't love it. I want to. Here's okay. This is my whole soapbox about pro shots. I feel some sort of way about it, but also I'm like, if it's a pro shot, give me the experience like it would be if I was sitting in the theater. I
Mm-hmm.
want that. But I
Yeah.
also understand that that is very challenging.
Yeah. Yeah, and they filmed the
So,
pro shot for 3
especially with
different
so many moving parts.
performances. They filmed 3 different
Yeah,
performances and then did like close-ups during the day, like on their off time, which is crazy.
it's crazy.
Um yeah, I loved rewatching it. When the first time I watched it, like we had little Hamilton dishes and we made like puns with our Hamilton food, and it was just so much fun. And again, it was halfway through lockdown, so we were like I went and saw my
Yeah.
family, but like that was like the only people I was seeing then. So it was yeah, it was what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. Um Is there anything before? I mean, I know we don't do MVPs on Deep Dive, but I just want to shout out the ensemble of the show because they do so much freaking work in this show. It is
Yeah.
crazy. That's all I
Yeah.
want to say.
I have two thoughts. Are we wrapping? Is this us getting to the end?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I have two separate things to say. Number one, who designed the set? And I know who designed the set, but I'm just like,
David Corns.
what were you thinking? Because all of those actors have to walk up so many
Mm-hmm.
stairs.
So many
And I
stairs.
was reading I was reading I swear that this interview happened over like a video, and I was trying to look it up at work today because I'm productive at work. But
Right.
I couldn't find the video, and so instead I found like some quotes from James Monroe Iglehart, and he was like, what the audience doesn't see are the 2 flights of stairs you have to get to that top tier that are actually set in the back. And you think, why do they do that to them? Why are there so many
Mm-hmm.
stairs? And I thought about
Yeah,
that
why isn't it
watching it.
just an escalator in the back
Yes,
if you
why are
can't
there
see it?
also why is there not just like a platform, like a ramp? You could
Right.
have a ramp. Anyway, doesn't matter. I love this. I love the integrity of the stairs, but I do think
Love
that's
it.
very interesting. And a part of the stamina, the show takes so much stamina I cannot even imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I want to shout out to that. I also want to shout out to Ham for Ham, which we didn't talk about.
Mm.
Ham for
Yes.
Ham, an amazing like lottery
Yeah.
system that started, I think. Am I back?
Yeah, you're
Did I
back.
freeze? Did I go away? Okay.
There you go.
An amazing lottery system that I believe started because of the lottery that Rent had started. I
Mm-hmm.
believe. I cannot quote. Do not quote me on that. But anyway, it's they have a $10 for Ham, so you could see the show for $10 if you won the
Yes.
lottery. Basically, there were all these rules
Yes.
about it because,
Pay a
as you can imagine,
Hamilton $10 to see Hamilton. Right.
yes, Ham for Ham, right? So as you can imagine, there were a shit ton of people who
Yeah.
would show up
Always.
to do that, and so then they created this, like, it didn't just become the lottery, it became a show before the lottery.
Mhm.
So you would put your name in the lottery and literally stand out there, and you would stand in the street, and then there would be a
Mhm.
little performance of the people who were there. And they did this
Yep.
quite a few times. Well, I did not see Hamilton on Broadway. I still have yet to see Hamilton on Broadway, so I will say. But the week
We'll
I
get
was
there.
in New York, we obviously put our name in for Hamilton, and we saw the Ham for Ham show, and it was Rory O'Malley,
Mhm.
Alex Lacamoire, is that how you say his name?
Mhm. Yep.
And Renee Elise Goldberg. And I was like, I cannot. It was so good. It was so good. Renee sang 2 songs, and Rory maybe sang part of the song with her, but
Was
really
this
was just
Congratulations? The Congratulations one? The cut song from the show? Because that's
I
like
don't
one
know.
of the
Let me
best
pull up
Ham
the
for
video.
Hams.
I like how we haven't talked. Have we talked about this?
No, I
Can I
don't think
go
we have.
in
That's
my?
like Kat. That's honestly like Kat's like one of her favorite songs from the show, and it's not even in the show.
I don't know if it is because Lynn wasn't there. Was
No,
Lynn there
because
during
Lynn.
that show?
No, I don't think so. Because I remember Rory performing during Congratulations. Because he at one point took over the Ham for Ham show. Because once Lynn left, he took over it. Right next to your mic, Aiken.
It's the last Ham for Ham. It was the last Ham for Ham. I thought it was.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, good for me. Proud of me.
Wow, that's amazing.
Oh well, didn't even know.
That was a cut song from the show, and it only has one line left. The "I'm not here for you." That's in the show, but everything else is not.
Well, I remember needing to go to the Ham for Ham, but I thought it was because it was the last one, but then I thought no, it wasn't the last one because Lynn wasn't there, but it really was the last one. It was the last one until they started it again
Until they
after.
did it again this year.
Yeah.
With the Broadway season. Yeah. Some of my favorites
But
are
yeah,
like
Ham for Ham.
the
What a cool.
the 3 kings, like Angie Reynolds, Brian Doshi James, Jonathan Groff, mouthing the Schuyler sisters. I love the Kelly O'Hara one is amazing. There's so many Ham for Hams where Lynn is just watching people in like awe and amazement and love, and every
Complete
comment,
awe.
every YouTube comment is like, I want Lynn to look at me the way, I want my boyfriend to look at me the way Lynn looks at so and so.
Yeah.
It's just so good. It's so good.
And I think that Ham for Ham, I don't know if I just think that it is such a ethos of, or like a representation of, like the show and the people who are in the show, and that they're willing to do this. Is not part of their job, that they're willing to do this, not just the Hamilton, like $10 for a seat or standing room or whatever you got, but that it became like a separate entity. It became a spin-off show of the show, which is crazy. It's
so crazy. Yeah.
And
so crazy.
I love it.
And the fact that it came back this year, I really hope it comes back again for this Tony season. I think it would be so much fun.
It's so fun because this past year they did all of they invited other Broadway shows to come and sing with them.
Yeah.
Which
so
is
good.
Just so wholesome.
Yeah, I know. So wonderful, and such the spirit of Broadway. Like, you really can tell that so many people love it. Yeah, I don't know what else. I mean, I feel like we've talked so much about this show. I love it so much.
Yeah.
I think I'm just so glad we have it in the world. And also I'm so glad we have it.
Agreed.
I'm just so glad we have it on Disney Plus forever. And
for us to watch.
One day they'll make a movie and I just wonder what it'll be like. So Will John M. Chu direct it? That's what I want to know.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think it really, I- I didn't share this, but when Hamilton came out and I was at home, I came home for whatever the holiday or something. People like
Mhm.
kids, like high school kids were rapping Hamilton while walking
Yeah.
around my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And like that doesn't happen for musical theater people. And so as much as I sometimes am like this takes up so much space
Yeah.
in the narrative line, I think it like really has perpetrated into everyone else's culture in a way that really helps theater nerds like say like we actually are not just some
Mhm.
weird subset of we can be cool too. I
Yeah.
guess would
Yeah.
be how I would say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. And I think, yeah, again, it's just become a part of the language of like, oh, Hamilton. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I wonder what that Lynn will do next. We're excited to see. I mean, how do you?
What's
That's the
next?
thing. That's the thing. What comes next? Huh? That's the thing is that like, what do you do after Hamilton? Like, obviously he's done a lot of stuff, but like, what musical do you do? Like, there's so much pressure. I feel like, what do you do? We'll see.
I think
We'll
you need
see.
to do a flop. That's my thing. You go in thinking I'm gonna do a flop just to get it out of my system.
Well, and he's talked about how you just do a 180. You just do the complete opposite of what people think you're gonna do. So
He's gonna
yeah,
take a book out of Sondheim
which he's
or
talked
a
about.
page out of Sondheim. Not
Also,
the
I
book.
want this to be on record on my podcast is that when I first showed my wife and her friend or talked about Hamilton, they laughed in my face and said that sounds like the stupidest thing they ever heard. And who's laughing now? Everyone loves it. So
Who's laughing now?
that's right. That's right. Rachel, thank you. Finally, 100 episodes having this Hamilton discussion.
100 episodes. Cheers to 100 episodes
Yes.
and to Hamilton.
Yes. Take a
Clink.
shot.
My water.
All right, Rachel, let's talk about our character of the week.
Let's do it. Now people can finally see my weird movements. Yes,
You're
this
shitty. You're
is
bringing
the
on moods.
time. Yeah. This is bring it on. Yes. This is the time when
Another Lennon
Taylor
show.
exactly. This is a time where Taylor and I think about how we've been feeling, what we've been doing this past week, and then we scour the theater universe and find a theater character or thing from the theater that has similar thoughts, feelings, or vibes.
We would also love to hear your thoughts, of course, on Hamilton, an American musical. So many thoughts. And we would love to hear.
And which Skylar's sister, Allie and AJ are to bring
Yeah.
it full circle.
True, full circle. And I've dubbed that Rachel is Angelica and I'm Eliza. That's what I've said. That's what I'm gonna say here. For the record.
What about
Of course,
Peggy? Justice for Peggy.
Peggy is whatever guest we have on the show. and ever, Becky was our first Peggy. Or I guess
No.
Sophia was our first
Yeah.
Peggy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds about right.
Okay.
Hey, justice for Peggy. Of course, we'd love to hear your characters. What characters are you this week? Comment on our social media pages. Tell us who your character is this week for real, guys, and you may get a shout out on episode 101. Rachel, who is your character this week?
Inspired by this week's episode because we knew ahead of time what the deep dive was going to be about.
It's true, we did know.
Which normally doesn't happen. But also this week I've been feeling kind of like I don't know what's going to happen. I can't read the room. Like I have a big meeting tomorrow, IRL, and it could go one of two ways. My expressions, my actions could go one of two very extreme different ways. And that
You can wear a
reminds me of this.
mask.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just put a wall up, paper bag.
Hmm.
That reminds me of this part in Hamilton, uh, at the very end where Eliza gasps, and there's all this commentary about
Hmm.
if the gasp
Yeah.
is because she's seeing God, because she's seeing Alexander, because she herself is dying, because she's
Right.
seeing the audience and breaking the fourth wall.
She's hearing something from her boss.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I am the gasp because we don't know, and there's lots of speculation about what might happen, but we don't know, and it's up to our own interpretation. So that's who I am this week. I'm Eliza's gasp.
Amazing. That is incredible. Maybe the best thing. Yeah, there's so many articles on her gasp. I
There's
can't even.
so many.
Yeah, we'll link one of them in the show
I was
notes.
unprepared by how much rhetoric there
Yeah,
was.
yeah. What do you think? I
Taylor,
think
who are you?
it's all. I think all of it's true. That's my.
Yeah, I think it, as Lynn said in an interview, it's different for every Eliza.
Right.
So
My character this week is also taking a book out of Rachel's. Someone from the Hamilton American Musical. Recently, we've been doing this new sleep thing with my son. He's 7 months old, going through some sleep regression. He's learning to sleep on his own, so he'll sleep for a couple hours and then wake himself up by moving his hand. And listen, I can't lie, I get a little frustrated. I'm like, oh, come on, we just put you down or whatever. So I am, of course, the man that ultimately got frustrated because he lost the war to America and just sang that breakup song, and I am King George III from Hamilton.
I love this.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
I did
Also, a
not
song you could sing
verify.
to your son.
It's true. It's true.
You'll
I
be
did
back.
not verify if I've been this character before, so I apologize if I have. But
Once again, there are no rules, but we pretend there are rules.
correct, and it's 100, so we can do whatever we want.
We can break all
If
the
you
rules.
guys, that's right. We break all the rules. If you guys would like to join in on our discussion, check us out at theaternerdpod.com, or you can also find us on Instagram and Threads at Theater Nerd Pod and on Facebook at Theater Nerd Podcast.
Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week.